Hey guys, producer Steve here to just give a quick shout out to the people who have made this project possible so far. Pinnacle CBD, a manufacturer of incredible CBD products, has been hugely helpful to us, and they have been helpful to me personally in opening my eyes to the benefits of CBD. You can check them out at pinnaclecbd.com. Also, a big thank you to VapesGoneWild, who carry the David Gerlitz collection of vape fluid. If you're trying to quit smoking and want a dependable quality product that you can turn to, the David Gerlitz collection is the place to start. We're also looking for additional sponsors for the show, so if you're interested, shoot us a message via the contact form at davidgmodelcitizen.com or at davidgpodcast@gmail.com. Enjoy the show.
Well, it's good to be back with you at the David G. Model Citizen Podcast, Session 2, because I just got started last week and I'm more pissed off and pumped up now than ever before. Just got back from Mobile, Alabama, which I got to share with you the nightmare that was down there. And I'm even going to talk about the nightmare I had at the previous convention in Atlanta. So we need to discuss some things that's going to really set my show apart from anybody else's. I don't do talk radio too much anymore. I used to sit there and listen to it, and I'd wonder about all these hosts that are coming on talking about shit that they feel that they know all about. They know about everything, politics and entertainment and theater. All I can tell you what I know about is tobacco and vaping and big tobacco and big pharmaceutical and all the people who are as corrupt as hell, and we are letting them get away with stay out of jail free cards. They are corrupt as shit, and nobody's really doing anything about it. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the UFC or the WWE, or I'm not going to be talking about the Kardashians, or I'm not going to be talking about the Me Too movement. I'm not going to be talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm not going to be talking about politics with Trump and Russia and Mueller. I'm just up to here. I'm up to my neck with that crap. I have to move on with things that I have solutions for. And the solutions that I have are based on my knowledge and having worked with big tobacco for a lot of years in the anti-tobacco movement. I'm sick and tired of vapors and smokers being the whimsical plaything and the pawns and the toys for these politicians and lawmakers, and public opinion is thinking that they're just worthless. They are expendable people, and we need to really figure out what to do on that. This podcast is for that reason only. I'm going to be able to do this with the help of some good manufacturers of e-liquid for vaping, which has helped millions of people in the United States. About 9.5 million people vape right now. And they got into vaping because they were desperate. They also liked the culture of it. They liked the fact that it was not making them stink or smell. It was less expensive. And they were hearing the truth in that it was 90 to 95% safer as an alternative to combustible tobacco. And we talked about that last time. And I just think we need to continue that conversation so people can get educated once and for all. I mean, my God, what we have going on right now is a plethora of public opinion who has no clue what we're talking about. They look at a vapor, they have been told it's the same, if not worse than smoking, and they are forced to go outside into the dark alleys to vape, and they're not allowed to vape in the bathroom, even though it smells good if you've got a flavor. Even tobacco-flavored vaping in e-liquid doesn't have any lingering after effects. And everybody says, well, we don't know the long-term effects. Well, again, we know the long-term effects of smoking. What do we have? We still have people buying them every day at the 7-Eleven, at the Wawa, at the convenience stores, at the liquor stores. And, we've moved on from what really needs to be done because we have become so Presbyterian and so puritanical in the fact that, all these adults making these frigged up laws, where they want to raise tobacco and smoking and e-liquids and vaping devices and hookahs to 21. You can go to war at 18, kill people, get shot at, but you can't make a decision whether you want to smoke or vape. I mean, that's just bullshit. It's nonsense. But we need to move beyond that anger. We need to move beyond that frustration, and we need to talk about it. We're going to have guests on the show. We're going to have manufacturers of e-liquid. We're going to have manufacturers of hardware who will be sponsoring the show. Those are people who are lining up right now who want to be a part of something that's new and different. We're riding a new wave here. It's not just finding 7,000 ways to change the flavor of strawberry or butterscotch or guava or grape or blueberry or cake. We've got to find ways that we're going to be able to convince smokers that they need to really try vaping as an alternative. I just got back from Mobile. Horrible time for me when I got there. We weren't allowed to sell CBD once we landed at the Mobile Convention Center because we were told when we got there that Alabama is one of the few states that doesn't allow vaping of CBD or even selling CBD in Alabama because of some technicality. There was a technicality with Lenny's Law somewhere a year and a half ago where CBD is allowed in 50 states. It's legal if it falls under 0.3% THC. And CBD that we sell and most people sell, which is Koi and Pinnacle and Blue Moon and several other manufacturers of CBD, falls way under the requirement of the federal law of 0.3%. You know what? And then we were told that we cannot sell the products down there in this convention because they didn't want to get raided. And because some people, of course, there's some a-holes out there who are really screwing it up for everybody. They're spiking some of the CBD with maybe a little bit more THC. And then the word gets out, you do 99 things right, nobody knows. You do one thing wrong and frickin' everybody knows. So when you have that kind of a problem, you have to address it. And we didn't address it until late Saturday when we were finally able to get CBD sold because I persuaded people, along with Kevin, my partner at Pinnacle, and a couple other manufacturers of CBD, that this is why the vaping industry is in the position they are, because nobody has balls enough to stand up to these people and say, hey, we're not going to be passive aggressive. It's either legal or it's not. And the technicality, interestingly enough, if you want to understand what happened, every state was allowing CBD to be sold. There was a couple gray areas in some states like Ohio, which they've changed. There were some gray areas in Tennessee 2 months ago when the sheriff's office in Rutherford County raided 23 vape shops, confiscated all their e-liquid, all their CBD. They took their money, they arrested them, they put them in jail. And guess what? They were wrong. And now the sheriff's department is getting sued because they jumped the gun and they didn't really look at the facts before they went along, and they embarrassed people and they put them in jail, and they now have changed those shops forever because you cannot put toothpaste back in the tube. The damage has been done. So I hope they sue the shit out of them. Oh, what happened in Ohio? There was a law written a few years ago that said anything that's made from hemp cannot be sold in Ohio, including the shirt you're wearing or the sheet that you're putting on your bed if it comes from hemp. Well, they're changing that as well. So things are changing slowly with 31 states that now have medicinal marijuana and 12 states that have recreational marijuana and CBD in 50 states. And now Alabama came along and said the same thing, but then there was a Lenny's Law. And the law was going to be signed for this young little girl who needed to have CBD because of the, I don't know if it was seizures. I forget if it was seizures or it was a medical ailment or a cancer or what. But they took it all the way to the House and Senate of Alabama. It passed 95%. We're going to allow certain types of CBD to be sold, okay, because they believe it was going to help this child. And everybody agreed at a rate of 95%. Well, unfortunately, before the governor signed that bill to sell it without a prescription or as a piece of medical apparatus or whatever the case was. I don't know all the particulars. But guess what? The Alabama governor was being impeached, and he was. So he never signed the law into action. So now it's a technicality. So people have to die and suffer because of a technicality. And it's taken a year and a half to address this shit. This is why people get pissed off. This is why people get angry. And this is why people need to take their anger and address it at the right people. And unfortunately, we're addressing it at the victims. The smoker and the vapor are the people that we need to really consider as the victim here. A smoker was enticed and encouraged and lured at 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 by assholes like me at the time. They became smokers, addicted, and now they're held accountable for the rest of their life, unlike anything else if they were addicted to. If they were on crack, heroin, or if they were on fentanyl, or if they were on, alcoholics, we would be having them in rehab. We'd be taking care of them. We'd give them time off of work. But no, if you're a smoker, damn it, you know what? You got to suffer because you're a loser. If you're a vapor, you're no better than smoker. So this shit's got to stop. And I don't need Joe Rogan's show to give me a platform to tell my story. I have my own podcast now, and I got my own followers that are going to probably want to know more and more information. But with that being said, I'm going to need guests on this show. I'm going to need people who are a little bit smarter than I am, maybe academically, philosophically, medically, financially, because this is big business for big tobacco. This is big business for the government. Not every politician somehow, when they leave office, is richer than when they went in. There's got to be something wrong with that. So what we're going to do in these shows, in my podcast, like I told you last time we were on, is that we're just going to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you don't like me, shut me the hell off. Because the truth has got to get out there. This is going to be won in the court of public opinion, and we're not going to get the public opinion if we don't get the truth out, if we stop, pussyfooting around and playing in sandbox with these bad lawmakers making bad laws, because that's exactly what they are. They are bad people making bad laws that will never be enforced. We have laws right now that are still unenforceable. They're just making life miserable for people who are trying to enhance the quality of their life. And yes, every day we're distracted, with AIDS and crack and heroin and global warming and immigration and rainforest destruction. And nobody's going to really give a rat's ass about tobacco because you did it to yourself. And that's what we have to change. That's the attitude that needs fixing. That is the attitude that needs to be addressed, once and for all. And that is, how did we get in this position? Well, you got a $500 billion tobacco industry that is trying to take over the vaping industry, and they already started. They've already bought, several vaping companies. They are moving into the vaping community with, don't get me started on this one, but I'm going to have to mention it, $1 billion is being given to the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World. That's going to be funded to Derek Yack, who used to be the World Health Organization Executive Director. And as a conflict of interest in that, I'm questionable about some of their motives. They're taking $1 billion to make a foundation for a smoke-free world in all these countries where smokers are really, really dying at great next speeds. All right. Well, if Philip Morris really wanted to help people live longer, they would stop making tobacco now and not give them a deadline of 12 years. Who the hell came up with that number? $80 million a year for 12 years is $1 billion. And the people who are now using this money to build this foundation, their motives are to rid the world of combustible tobacco. And the tobacco companies are now saying, yes, we admit that we want to get there too. Now, okay, I'll buy that for about a second. When they're a $500 billion a year industry, yeah, they may have some concerns with the things that they have to do now on television. They have to admit that they lied. They have to admit that when I testified in Congress in 1988 that they targeted and marketed the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid, which is what I testified to in 1988, or 89 rather, excuse me. And now I've been vindicated by these people who called me nothing but a liar. I'm going to call them out. These people have got to be held accountable for the lies that they've been telling for years, because we're losing 5 billion people, in this world in the next 100 years. 1 billion lives. 5 million a year die from tobacco-related diseases. So if you do the math globally, I can't even begin to tell you where we are, but I do know that big tobacco is a $500 billion industry, and for them to, put a wolf in sheep's clothing here and say that we care, so we're going to try to reduce the levels of nicotine. People will not smoke if there's levels of nicotine are so low that they don't need it anymore. People smoke for the nicotine. They don't die from the nicotine, but they smoke for the nicotine. It's the smoke that kills you. It's the combustion. It's the tar. It's the gases. It's the poisons. So shows like mine, the podcast, it's going to be unpopular because people are going to say, well, we heard on the news. It could be this. It could be that. We heard, somebody said, I'm so sick and tired of that shit. Somebody said that vaping is as bad as tobacco. It happened to my wife this morning. One of her friends said, is your husband in vaping? Is he, I'm not a big fan of that. Now, who the hell asked you, number one? And number two, she continues her conversation by saying she doesn't smoke and she really hasn't researched it. But that's the attitude that I'm talking about. The court of public opinion has changed, and we're not going to change policy until you change perception. You can't change perception without changing policy. So, or get the facts out there. Nobody's going to go watch a movie. A Billion Lives had 2% of the vapors in the whole world went to see the movie. Every vapor should see that movie, A Billion Lives. Every vapor should get educated on how the product that they're vaping has saved their life and enhanced them at whatever level they're enhanced. Now, if you're only vaping once in a while for shits and giggles and you're still smoking a pack and a half or 2 packs a day, that's your call. That's the way it should be. And certainly, I'm very offended when people tell me after I spent 20 years in trying to get kids to never start smoking by working for the American Cancer and Lung and Heart Association, I'm offended as shit when they tell me that I would ever go out there and try to encourage young teens to vape. Vaping is not for teenagers. Smoking is not for teenagers. Binge drinking is not for teenagers. Sex is not for teenagers. Texting and driving is not for teenagers. Eating Tide Pods and snorting condoms and hating and bullying is not for teenagers, but they do it. So we need to address that, and we have to look at it square in the eye and say, how are we going to frickin' fix it? This is a show where I'm not going to be trying to, scare you into fearing, people coming at you with tiki torches. I'm going to try to tell you how you can grow a pair, stand up to these people and say, hey, show us the proof. Roswell Park Cancer Institute has said that vaping is much safer than smoking. The Royal College of Physicians has said it's 95% safer than smoking cigarettes. I don't know how many more research documents and how many more stats do we have to prove to these politicians who are just afraid that they're losing their job. What would make them even want to find some tobacco harm reduction product when all they have to do is make fun of all of the people who are doing it and calling them losers just because they're afraid of losing their jobs in American Cancer, American Lung, American Heart. I don't want to give another nickel to a patient of who's getting support from American Cancer Society or American Lung. I'd rather raise the money and give it to the victim. Don't give it to these folks, because all they're going to do is spend about 9 to 10% of it on research, and the rest of it goes into their pockets for high salaries and fundraisers. We have fundraisers for just about every body part there is except for lung cancer. We have a relay for breast cancer and pancreatic cancer and brain cancer, but we don't have anything for the lung cancer because nobody cares about the lung cancer victim because we did it to themselves. So I'm pretty sick of it. I'm going to have guests on the show that are going to probably argue with me about the facts, and I'll show me where the facts are. 430,000 Americans die every year from tobacco. 430,000. I mean, that's quite a huge number, okay? And I'm just looking for my stats here now, and I can't seem to find them. But when you look at the amount of people who have been given the truth goes through 3 stages, in my opinion. Truth is, first of all, it's denied. Then it's considered. And then finally, it's accepted as truth. And then what happens? It comes back with somebody else taking the credit. Everything has to be judged. Everything has to be changed. Everything in my world has changed. I'm 69 years old, and everything I've had when I was a little kid has now changed. Everything has changed. My cell phone has changed. The way we raise our kids, the way we talk to our kids. I remember my first daughter came home with my wife with her in her lap in the car. We didn't have car seats. We didn't even have seatbelts. We had playgrounds for kids that were made of steel, metal and steel, mounted in cement. With swings that would go 40 feet high. And, we changed that. Everything has to be changed for the children. And I'm all for that. I'm all for, seeing mistakes that are made and then changing it and finding ways to improve upon it. And there's no way you're going to improve on tobacco, folks. There's no way you can make tobacco safe. And if you do make tobacco safe by removing the nicotine, you're not going to use it. And then the tobacco industry is going to have to go out of business unless they're able to find a strategic way to let vaping become a part of their world, and then they become the heroes. Because as I said, vaping is going to come back, but it's not going to come back as tobacco. It's going to come back as a cessation device for people who really want to quit. And guess what? The tobacco companies are going to take the credit for it. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's the way it should be. I don't think that people who have been accused of murdering people at a rate of 434,000 people a year because they knew their product killed and they hid it, they lied, and now they have to make amends by taking out newspaper ads and going on television. And you see it all the time, that the tobacco companies are guilty of what they're doing, and now they're trying to save face, and they're trying to take away the vaping industry as the reason for their admission of their failure. So I think what we need to do is we need this podcast to really start kicking off with some honesty and some truth and some facts that we really can replicate all the time. These are just not words that are coming out of my mouth to your ears. These are words that I've lived by for the last 25 years in the tobacco community as the Winston man and now as an educator of kids, trying to get them to never start smoking. I was successful there, and I think the only way to do that is to tell the truth, and that's what we're going to be talking about. You know, when you start looking at the facts as we know them, the facts are that tobacco kills 434,000 people a year. That's a fact. Ask any, even smokers. Smokers know that when they started smoking, it probably wasn't the best choice. They'll probably, if they continue to smoke, they will prematurely get diseased and die. You know, poor diet, you know, probably rates with heart disease somewhere around, and obesity about 300,000 a year. Alcohol is killing about 85,000 people a year. Auto crashes, I think the numbers are 26,000 people a year die in a car accident. And we've done everything to make cars safer. We even have cars that now park themselves. They stop themselves. We have cars that will warn you when there's something that's jumping out in front of you. You know, poor diet. We got dietitians. We got health shows. We got good food. We got expensive organic foods. We got everything in the world possible to stop these people from dying in car crashes. And alcoholism, I don't know what to tell you about that. We just try to have to make sure it doesn't get into the hands of our kids. But college, what are you going to do? You get an 18, 19, 20-year-old going to college, they're going to drink for the most part. And we know it, but we let it continue. We don't try to stop it unless somebody dies, and then you have to go to court, and then you get distracted, and then everybody blames the victim because he or she shouldn't have been at that party. You got a lot of people who are dying from prescription drugs, 32,000 people. You know, my daughter's a mortician. She tells me every week that there's somebody who's died from prescription drug overdoses. You know, we've got malpractice, which is running about 140,000 a year. I don't know if anybody frickin' knew that. 140,000 people die every year from malpractice. Okay, and you got peanuts. They're killing about 100 people. My granddaughter goes to school. You can't have a peanut vapor that's floating around the nursery school that she goes to because, you know, 100 kids happen to die. And yes, it's important that we protect everybody. And then vaping has killed 0 people. 0, not 1, nada, zilch. But yet we cannot get a handle on the product that's going to, exponentially change that number of 434,000 people who die every year from tobacco. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Everything that needs to be changed, we will change. Like I said last time, Jane Mansfield gets decapitated when she runs into the back of a flatbed trailer, and now everybody has to have a stop bar. 7 people died from Tylenol because somebody tampered with the packages of Tylenol. I forget what year it was. I can look it up, but I can tell you, 7 people died. And what happened? Immediately, they were now hermetically sealed packages where you needed the chainsaw to get into it. And you needed to have pliers because it was sealed so nobody could tamper with it. Yes, I'm all for that. I'm all for progress. I'm all for new cell phones. I'm hoping that cell phones don't give you brain cancer, and I'm hoping that somebody did the research. When you get on a plane, some guy decides he's going to carry a bomb in his shoe. Now the whole world has to take off their shoes when they get on an airplane. Yes, I'm all for change if it's going to help society. And now we have 434,000 people dying from smoking, caused illnesses. You know what? We do nothing. We come up with an alternative that has been invented by consumers for smokers, and the government's trying to take it away, and I just don't fucking get it. I'm just over it. And when I get angry, it's because I see it, I watch it, I live it. I see it every day. I see it with my brother. I see it with myself. I have COPD and emphysema, but I can't talk about it and get sympathy because I did it to myself. And I started smoking at 13. And that's what A Billion Lives, the documentary, was all about. It was trying to expose the corruption and the oxymorons that we have regarding the attitude we have toward the smokers and now the vapors who have found it all by themselves without a grant from the government, without counseling. They just decided they had it. They were up to their eyeballs with being looked upon as a parasite, as a second-class citizen, as a leper, because they're smoking around children, and they should be shot. They should be removed. They should be sanctioned into the dark alleys in the rain and the snow. You know what? It doesn't make any sense to me. And A Billion Lives, the documentary that very few people saw, did tell the story, but it didn't get the kind of legs that it needed. So we have to find alternatives to get the message out. You're not going to hear it from the media. The media lies through their teeth. All they do is wait for paid press releases that they can cut and paste and call themselves journalists. I haven't had one call regarding vaping as an alternative for smokers who are now no longer smoking. 9.5 million vapors in this country. Millions of people in Canada and in Europe and in France and Germany. Germany has set the pace for people quitting smoking. You know what? Some people know what they're doing. Some people get it. And unfortunately, my government here in the United States doesn't get it when they're trying to ban the alternative to smoking tobacco at a rate of 434,000 deaths every year. And this product, because it doesn't have their, I would say, approval. Why? Because they're not reading the data. They're not reading the research. They're not reading the scientific information that says vaping is better than smoking. And why not embrace it instead of putting everybody, into this hole with a target on their back saying, we don't really give a shit about you. We're just going to let you die because you did this to yourself. So that gets me in a mood. And when I get in these moods, this podcast has got to be more than just me telling you my moods. It's got to be more than me projecting my anger, to the smoker or the vapor who's not doing a whole lot because they don't know what the hell to do. I know what to do. I know how to get these senators and congresspeople and lawmakers in the campaign for tobacco-free kids and hold them accountable. I know how to expose them. I know how to tell them. I'll rat them out. That's what I have to do. I have to rat these people out, embarrass them, because the only time people make change in their life is when they're embarrassed. I don't think Bill Clinton would ever have sex again in the White House after the Monica Lewinsky thing because he got scared, he got embarrassed. I don't think people will change their attitude until they're exposed and brought to their knees to really have to be held accountable for the actions that they've taken on this miracle. This is a miracle. Vaping is a miracle. And then along with that, now we're playing the same games with CBD that's been around for 3 years, and people have been using it and they're loving it and they're seeing successes with it. And now because it's becoming popular, the government wants to get involved and take it away. Why? Because they don't understand it, except for John Boehner and Mitch McConnell. They were so totally against THC and CBD and marijuana because of the reefer madness scare we had in the 60s and 70s and 80s. No one's ever died from marijuana that I'm aware of. They only make marijuana illegal because, not because it's dangerous, they make it illegal because it's curing PTSD. It's curing other forms of diseases that the big pharmaceutical companies are making billions off of, in revenue. So everybody knows this, but nobody seems to give a shit. Nobody seems to care. Nobody cares because, if it's not this, it's going to be AIDS or crack or heroin or global warming or rainforest destruction or earthquakes or floods or Black Lives Matter or Me Too or never again. There's always something to take away the focus of 434,000 people dying every year. And they're all dying 10, 12, 14 years prematurely by statistics. If you smoke, you're going to die 8, 10, 12, 14 years premature in most cases. Now, everybody says, well, I had a grandma who used to smoke until she was like 80. Yeah, well, I know somebody who tried to cross the street in Manhattan in rush hour traffic and survive, but you line up 10,000 people, push them out into rush hour traffic, you're going to see them drop like flies. See, we can justify anything we want, but if we had justify our politicians and our public health advocates, give me a break. Public health, they have one fucking job to do. They have one job to do, and that is to ensure that the public health has got the best alternatives to getting better, whether it be homeopathic medicines or whether it be, herbal supplements or whatever we have in our society that has been proven to help other people. If they try to take it away because they want to control you with their moral indignation, that's when we need to stand up and fight. Yeah, and sometimes people get pissed off because we get a little aggressive, and I don't have a filter on my mouth for the most part. I don't usually like to curse. I really don't. I don't like to do the Howard Stern stuff, and I don't need to be Joe Rogan and all the other shows that are on, Sirius Radio. I don't think we need to curse for shock value, but sometimes I really get fucking pissed off, okay? And when I get pissed off, I need to say it out loud so people take me seriously or shut me off. One of the two. If you're going to take me seriously, listen to what I have to say. Call me. Send me an email. Tell me what you want to talk about when it comes to tobacco and smoking. And I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to tell you, what's going to be best for you. But if we know that vaping has helped 9.5 to 10 million people in the U.S. and not smoking anymore, and they're now running, they're jogging, they're getting healthier in other areas, we're adding to their protocol maybe CBD, because generally smokers aren't healthy in other areas of their life. So let's give them something that's going to handle stress in the form of CBD, in the form of vaping it, or flavors, or under your tongue to where it gets ingested. And like me, I haven't had to have a pain pill since last July, a year ago. Why? Because I'm on CBD. And for me, it works, and I recommend it to anybody who's got fibromyalgia, or stress, or Crohn's, or other diseases where they're coming off of other painkillers, and they need something to help get them to sleep at night, to relax them a little bit. It's not a drug. There's no psychoactive, ingredient in there. It's not even measurable in most cases in THC because it meets the criteria. It's not a Schedule 1 drug. Anything above 3% may be considered, but CBD, the way it's manufactured now and the way it's being sold, is way under that 3% goal. So there's a lot of things that this podcast is going to do, but it's not going to just me having diarrhea of the mouth. I'm going to bring people on here that are smarter than I am, who are going to be able to share with you what they found to be true. And it's not going to be biased. It's not going to be one-sided. If I'm wrong, somebody prove me wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me where I'm wrong. Just don't tell me you heard. Don't tell me that somebody said. Don't tell me you read what it could or it might. It may be proven that it's shown that to do this or do that. No, prove it. Put it in your writing. Show me where you can link it to. Show me the research and the science and the replicatable, second ways they researched it and did clinical trials. Tell me where I'm wrong and I'll back off. But in the meantime, I know that when you have 434,000 people dying more than AIDS, crack, heroin, we need to do more than we're doing now. And we need to stop giving free passes to the politicians who are trying to take away the most advantageous alternative to smoking, which we found to be true. It's running about 65 to 70% successful versus 9 or 10% or 8% from Chantix or Nicoban or Nicotrol or Habitrol. These are things that are important to me, and hopefully they're going to be important to you. But the only way they're going to be important is if you listen. And if you don't like what I have to say, tell me, and we'll talk about it. Knowledge is power, folks. And if you don't have the knowledge, just don't shoot your pie hole open and say, well, I'm not a fan because I really haven't studied it, but I heard. Fake news is fake news. I don't watch the news anymore because it's just a bunch of bullshit. If I want news and I want to get the truth, I go to the source. And I look at 3 or 4 different sources, but I certainly don't look at the media, who's probably just as complicit and culpable in helping people die prematurely by taking away a product that's going to be, helpful in their life. So that's what we need to talk about in the future. Kevin Crowley will be with me next week. I hope to have on a couple doctors to, offset some of the things I said, but at least I have to get you thinking. At least I have to get you started to listen. I want you to follow me every week. I want you to listen to my podcast. I want you to hear my rants, but my rants are only going to be addressed to the people who I'm really angry at. I'm just angry with the fact that people shouldn't have to die prematurely because they're held accountable for something that they were lured to do many, 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 many years ago by tobacco companies who are getting away with this. So to me, tobacco companies are merchants of death. Tobacco companies are culpable in corruption and getting people lied to, and they're getting away with it. And there's still a $500 billion industry shipping our product that we manufacture over here and grow into third world countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. And now the World Health Organization is trying to take away 180 countries where they are beleaguered by tobacco and the death rates are high. Now the alternative is vaping is available, and they're trying to ban that. So none of it makes sense. Well, it does sort of, but it doesn't make sense to somebody who believes that human kindness and the human element and the human factor is that public health officials have one job to do, and that is to protect the public's health. The politicians have one job to do, and that is to protect its citizenry. They work for us. We don't work for them. And if we don't educate them and get them into a situation where they understand where we're coming from, and if they're not even reading the documentation and the research and the science from health organizations. Royal College of Physicians in the United Kingdom is not Fred's medical school. We're talking about some of the best, smartest, most intelligent people in the world talking about how vaping is so much safer than smoking. So to end the show today, I just want to thank you for listening tonight. I'm by myself here now. Next week, we're going to have special guest on the show with us that's going to help you to understand that where I'm coming from. I'm not alone, and I'm just not a bimbo who talks out my ass, who doesn't know what he's talking about. We got people here who have educated me. They're smarter than me. I just look forward to sharing all this with you in the future. The podcast will be available online at some time next week at DavidGModelCitizen.com. So I look forward to hearing from you and your emails, and that'll all be in the website. And I'm looking forward to educating you with what I know to be true in my 40 years in the tobacco game. So thanks for being with me, and I look forward to next time we see each other or hear each other. Bye-bye.